The chatter that doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it on today's podcast.
I've spent the last 20 years studying, teaching, and coaching people to find their greatness and take their lives to the next level. Along the way, it's become evident that emotions are at the root of everybody's successes and failures. Worry and fear are the enemies, and it's time to forge the armor and earn the tools to overcome the two things that could single-handedly destroy your future. Hi, my name is Michael Johnson, and I'm a life coach, a peak performance trainer, and I'm the emotions guy. It's time to take back control of how you feel, control of how you act, and control of how you experience life. It's time to become a lifer, a new breed of overachiever focused on living every minute to its fullest. We are responsible for how we feel, and no one and no thing can make us feel anything. Emotional mastery is our journey, and emotional education and intelligence is the key. We are lifers, and this is Magic for Life.
What's up, lifers? Michael Johnson here with the Magic for Life podcast, and I'm excited that you joined me today because we're going to talk about the chatter that doesn't matter. Now, what the heck does that mean? Well, you know and I know that there's a ton of chatter going on inside that head of yours. All that space between those ears has a lot going on. And in some cases, it's really great. And in some cases, you've probably recognized by now that it's not so great. Now, if you've hung out with me for a little while, you've probably at some point heard me talk about the Lifer framework. And the Lifer framework says that you've got to learn yourself, you've got to engage or imagine the possibility, free your mind, engage your soul, and represent your experience, right? And that's the Lifer framework. If you haven't gotten a copy of it, you should. We got a nice little free thing you can go get. So check out magicforlife.com/Lifer framework. You can get it for free. Go pick it up. It's a nice, lovely little ebook about the Lifer framework. And in this framework, we talk about that learning yourself. This is a huge thing. You've got to learn what your tendencies are. You've got to learn what your deal is, what your thing is. Each of us have strengths, and each of us have things that we would like to get better, right? Those we call our weaknesses. In most instances, those weaknesses can actually turn into our superpowers. And you've seen it over and over again with many of the successful people on the planet. One of those things that we have to get better at is that chatter that doesn't matter, that stuff in our mind that is going on, and we need to clear it out and get it the heck out of there. Now, what does that mean? I'm not a big fan of saying that you've got to delete stuff, but I am a fan of repurposing and understanding what it is that's going on in your world, that chatter, and switching it, right? In many instances, when we find out what we don't want, we beat it over the head with a hammer. And we go, I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want this. And it's a thing that we do. We focus on what we don't want. Now, here's the thing. We have established, and when I say we, I'm saying the greater whole of this human race has started to figure out this law of attraction thing, this idea that what we focus on, we get. And that is because we are good at being creators. We are good at actually creating things into our world. We decided that writing with ink was a little challenging if we had to go get the feather and we had to dip it into a little bottle with the ink and then it'll dry out before we get a whole word, and then we had to dip it back and forth. Yeah, we decided that wasn't so great, so we created a pen. And now what do you know? We can pick up a pen and it'll write for days, months, years until it runs out of ink, and we just pick up another pen. And how great of an invention that is. How great that we were the creators of this thing. So thank you to who invented the pen, because it's super helpful. Now, that chatter that doesn't matter, that thing that's going on in your head, well, what does that mean? It's just a nice little phrase to remind yourself that you do have some chatter in your head that does matter. And when you can identify what that is by learning yourself, right? Socrates years ago said, temet nosce. It's Latin for learn thyself, right? You have to learn yourself. You have to learn about you, what meaning you're giving to the things that are going on in your world outside of you. You have to learn you. And in doing so, you can start to look at those tendencies and say, hey, you know what? I tend to react poorly to that situation. Let's make a plan for it. Let's create some chatter that does matter. Let's create some talk inside the mind of yours that is positive and heading you in the right direction, because we know that what you focus on, you get. And it's undiscerning. It is not going to matter whether it is positive or negative. It is just is, right? It just is. Whatever it is that you're thinking about is. And that's weird to think about, right? When we are operating from this place that says we are creators, we can create a pen, a light bulb, we can learn how to fly. Well, I mean, everybody thought the Wright brothers were crazy until they did it, and now it's a normal means of operation. Everybody thinks that going to the moon or traveling in space is crazy until we do it, which, by the way, as I understand, is just short of it being commercialized, right? If that's true, I don't know, or not. But hey, how cool is that? You might think, gosh, I don't know if I'd go to space. But if it was a commercial flight to go to space, would you take it up? Would you do it? Would you go and take a look at our beautiful planet from the outside in so that you could see the amazingness that our world is, instead of the negative that maybe many are focusing on? There are things that we can get better, but we can get better at them by focusing on what we want to get better, not necessarily on what is negative. And that might sound overly positive, but you get to decide. You get to decide. See, you didn't decide that the tide was going to come up in the ocean. You didn't decide that the earth was going to spin. It just does it on its own. You didn't make any decision towards that. It just happens. How cool is that? You didn't decide that the sun is going to burn for 5 billion more years before it does something that we think it's going to do. We're anticipating it. We are calculating it. But you're not going to be around in 5 billion years, at least not like this, right? So what's going on in your head, the chatter that does matter, is what you're looking at in a positive light. You get to decide. You get to decide what you're thinking. You get to decide what's going on in your head. You get to decide what the meaning is of something that's going on outside of you. You get to determine what things mean. Let me say that one more time, because three's a charm, right? You get to decide what the stuff outside of you means. You might say to me, but somebody else made it this way. Well, you still get to decide what it means. That chatter that's going on inside really does matter. So what can we do about it? What can we actually do about it? How do I fix that chatter? What if I'm learning myself and I recognize that there's some chatter going on inside of me? What do I do to fix it? Do I get mad at myself and beat myself up and say, gosh, you're so dumb. I can't believe how stupid I feel. Like I shouldn't have done that. Well, a lot of people do. Maybe you've even found yourself in that situation. Or can you do something different? Let me tell you, it is a challenge to do something different in those moments, because you've trained yourself, because you've learned to react that way. You've learned to give meaning in a certain way from past experiences. So at first, it does actually take a little bit of work to reprogram your mind. In the old days, that used to sound scary, but nowadays we reprogram our phone every time they come up with an update, and we don't think twice about it. We should be reprogramming our mind to continue to keep up with the times. Have you been doing that? It's not easy, and well, they don't really teach you how to do that in school. So where have you been learning that? Some of you have taken on the studies for personal development. Some of you have learned it through spiritual means. Some of you have learned it through reading books, getting educated, getting on the journey. I call it the lifer journey, right? Again, learn yourself. Imagine the possibilities, free your mind, engage your soul, and represent your experience, right? And that represent, right? Represent, get present again. All is about getting your mind to get rid of the chatter that doesn't matter. And again, that's coming from a negative. So I want to actually approach it from a positive. How can we approach things from that positive? How can we get the chatter that does matter? Well, we have to actually train ourselves. We have to actually do some practicing, just like a musician practices playing and then they can get into that zone. Just like a singer can practice singing and get into a space where you can see they're not there. The words are just coming out. Like a dancer, right? I'm a former professional ballroom dancer, competed on the circuit for 10 years. And one of the greatest moments that we could ever have as a dancer was getting into that space, getting into the zone where it was a form of meditation. And artists of anything, whether you're an artist of marketing or an artist of singing or an artist of dance or painting, whatever type of artist you are, and it could be of anything, because there is an art to everything. The art of golf. When you see a golfer in that zone, in that space, there is nothing like it. What can you do to get to that space? Can you do it on a regular basis? Is there something you can do every day that can get you into that space, that zone, that sweet spot that actually allows you to be more than you? I think there is. I think there is some stuff that you can do. Now, one of the easiest ways to do is something that took me years to really come to grips with. I always thought, no, that's just silly. That's silly stuff. Until I started doing it every day. And that is meditation. Meditation comes in a lot of different forms: dance, art, painting, drawing, singing, music. Meditation comes in a lot of different forms for a lot of different people. You can do what the monks of the Himalayas do, and they've dedicated their life to freeing their mind. Or you can spend 15 minutes on a daily basis quieting your mind. Now, you're not going to eventually, or you're not going to ultimately have nothing going on in your mind, because honestly, we're dead. That's when that happens. There's always chatter. There's always something going on. But if we can actually get rid of the chatter that doesn't matter and insert the chatter that does, knowing what you want is a big deal of that. Being able to spend 15 minutes quieting your mind and learning to get to that zone, getting to that place and space where you can access the greater part of you. That's pretty cool. 15 minutes isn't a lot. You don't have to dedicate an hour to meditating unless you want to. I'll tell you what, for the first little while, committing to doing that 15 minutes every day, it was a little challenging. But what I noticed right away was that 15 minutes wasn't quite enough, and it wasn't long before I found myself at a half hour, because I felt better, because it helped me, because it helped me connect, because it helped me quiet the chatter that didn't matter, and it helped me focus into the chatter that does. The connection to that greater whole. And you could call it what you'd like. We're not going to get into the spiritual nature of it. It's going to be different for each of you. You might be connecting to the universe, as you would call it. You might be connecting to God, as you would call it. You might be connecting to whatever it is that you believe. And that's great, because that's not what I'm here to talk about. But what I am here to talk about is that you can take some time to quiet your mind and give your mind a chance to really connect to something that is more powerful and greater as an overall whole. And what that is for you, well, that's for you, not for me. It's for you. But what I do know for sure is that if you focus on it, it's going to grow. If you give it energy, it will grow. So if you're saying to yourself, gosh, I'm so stupid, I can't believe I did that. If you say that enough times, it'll grow. You'll get more of it. We've got to get rid of that chatter that doesn't matter and replace it with the things that do, the positive outlook on it. You might say to yourself, well, gosh, that's just an over positive way to think. if I do that, then I'm not going to do any good for the world. Actually, you might. In fact, I know you will. The chatter that does matter is the stuff where you're being positive, where you're looking at it with a positive outlook, where you're looking at the negative things that other people are considering negative, and you're looking at it and saying, but you know what? There's some real positive things going on. And there have been some great leaders in the past that have been able to focus us in on the positive, not the negative. And some of the worst leaders of our past have honed into the negative things that are going on in the world, and they point them out and they help them grow by making the rest of the population focus on it. And so what are you focusing on? Are you focusing on the positive stuff? Are you focusing on the stuff that will actually grow and that you want to grow? Well, if it's the negative, you're probably going to get more of it. If it's the positive, you're probably going to get more of it. And that's huge, right? That is a big deal. So what is the chatter that does matter? Let's focus some more on that chatter that does matter, and let's start to improve our world from the inside out. Learn thyself and imagine the possibilities so you can start to free your mind. If you haven't picked up a copy of the Lifer Framework, you can find it at magicforlife.com/Lifer Framework. You get a free copy of the Lifer Framework. It's awesome. It's a great little PDF. You can download it, and it's free. So go pick it up. You're going to love it. It's amazing. Our team at Majic for Life did an amazing job putting it together, and I think you're going to love it. So go check that out. As usual, if you know somebody that needs to hear this today, please share it with them. Like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, and please give us a rating on iTunes, and let Apple know that we're a great podcast and that other people should come listen to us. Thank you so much for joining us today, and don't forget, find that magic for life. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Happiness is a choice. Sadness is a choice. All emotions are a choice. Sometimes doing our emotions doesn't seem like it's our choice, but it is. You have control. You are the captain of your ship, and you must learn how to be the best captain you can be. Let me show you how. Pick up your free copy of my new book, Every Minute, at everyminutebook.com.